Alrighty. Hello, everybody. My name is Felipe Avila. I am the president for TeenProLifers, and I'm so excited to have you joining us. And today with me, I have Megan Kerr, who is the executive vice president. So, Megan, tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Felipe. It's such a pleasure to be on with you today. I am the Executive Vice President of TeenProLifers. And so in that capacity, I oversee a lot of the administrative side of what we do here. That includes making sure everything runs smoothly as far as uploading all of our content and making sure that our teams are all in order. And that includes our blog team, our TikTok team, and our Instagram social media team and the graphics team that goes into that as well. So you might remember that I used to serve as the vice president of marketing before we officially changed some of those roles around. So now I'm serving in this capacity instead, and it's a pleasure to be Felipe's right-hand man, so to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, you're definitely a very busy person, and you do a lot for the pro-life movement. So kudos for that. So we're going to be talking about a new blog article that came out on the New York Times, and it was written by the current acting president of Planned Parenthood, Alexis McGill Johnson, and she essentially did what Planned Parenthood should have done decades ago. They officially disavowed their founder. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Margaret Sanger, she was a renowned racist who believed in eugenics and wanted to quite literally reduce the Black population. So Planned Parenthood essentially stemmed from racism. So, Megan, how does it make you feel that it took Planned Parenthood nearly, more than several decades to condemn their founder who was involved in the KKK? How does that make you feel?
It's honestly, knowing Planned Parenthood's ultimate mission and their high involvement with the abortion industry and trying to promote such radical abortion views, it's honestly not very surprising that that they've taken this long. They've been reluctant to let go of hiding behind her ultimate views to champion abortion, especially in the African American communities. It's honestly appalling. Abortion should not be pushed upon anybody, but especially not on a specific race. I mean, that's what the left has been trying to do. They've been trying to do the opposite of that through the Black Lives Matter movement. They are saying that Black Lives Matter. Well, what about the Black preborn lives, the Black babies who are suffering, and then their mothers who are also suffering at the hands of being the target, the victims of the abortion industry led by Planned Parenthood. So it's quite appalling. And I'll get into this a little bit later as we discuss some of the specifics of the article, but I honestly think that that a lot of what Alexis Johnson has said is honestly a very weak attempt to disavow their founder, Margaret Sanger, and I'll definitely get into that again, like I said later.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I skimmed through the article that she wrote, and it's amazing because she knew all along, and it's not like Planned Parenthood's leadership wasn't aware that they had a racist founder. They all knew. They chose to disregard that, and again, like you said, Megan, it's appalling that it's taken them this long. So, it's unfortunate, rather. Now, I'm gonna screen share the exact blog because I want us to provide commentary on this. So this was the blog by the New York Times, and again, the author of this article was Planned Parenthood's acting president. And for me, Megan, some of what stood out to me was that she mentioned that their founder was involved with the KKK. A lot of their supporters have been reluctant to admit that. And, whenever you mention that that Planned Parenthood stems from racism, they flat out deny it, say that's not true, it's fabricated lies. So for me, to see the top person within Planned Parenthood admit that yeah, their founder was racist and disavow her, I think that's a really big leap. And we've seen very small steps in the past where, for example, Planned Parenthood changed the name of their New York abortion facility to a different name, right, because of the racism. But I think this is honestly one of the biggest steps that they've taken, and I think it's something good that they've done. I will say, but I think this should have happened decades ago. So, Megan, what do you think? How do you see this article reflecting on the abortion industry and the abortion supporters? How is this going to make them feel and think?
So, regarding the opinions of people who are pro-choice or pro-abortion altogether, I think that it's going to be a little bit shocking, and it's going to be a little bit of a hit to some of their pride, saying that that Margaret Sanger was a champion for women's rights or for abortion rights, reproductive rights. So I think that it is going to take a little bit of time to make sure that the pro-choice movement is trying to become all aligned in their views and become united again. I think this could cause some division for sure. But speaking on behalf of the pro-life movement more so, I think that, like you said, it has taken them a very long time to make this attempt to disavow Margaret Sanger, but I don't think that their work is done yet. I think that they still have a lot of work left to do in coming to full terms with some of Margaret Sanger's actions. And I mean, I would like to point out something very specific that Alexis McGill Johnson says here. Until recently, we have hidden behind the assertion that her beliefs were the norm for people of her class and era, always being sure to name her work alongside that of W.E.B. Du Bois and other Black freedom fighters. But the facts are complicated. I think that they're still trying to hide behind a lot of excuses. I think that they're still trying to cover up the full extent of Margaret Sanger's actions and her nature and some of her very appalling words. I mean, I was reading a Heritage article just earlier today because I was trying to uncover more of her work with W.E.B. Du Bois, and I read about some of the birth control federation projects that they worked on together, and how Margaret Sanger herself tried to use those Black freedom fighters to become the face of the federation. Because, and I quote, "We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." And that's an awful thing. I don't think any pro-lifers are sitting here saying, yes, we want the African American communities to be exterminated. We don't want to see anybody exterminated. We don't want to see anybody become victim to the abortion industry because of who they are and what they are in their stage of human development. I mean, it's just the worst form of just victimization of people who are extremely helpless. They cannot help themselves. And so who's going to advocate for them? And so I think that, again, Alexis McGill Johnson is still trying to hide behind Margaret Sanger a little bit longer. I don't think that this is a complete attempt to let this go. And I think that this is a step in the right direction for Planned Parenthood. I won't deny that, but I also think that that they still have some more to do if they're going to completely convince the pro-life movement that they are letting go completely of their association with Margaret Sanger completely. So.
Right, and I really like how you phrase that, because I think it's a very petty thing for them a very small thing for them to just write this article and say, we're denouncing our founder who is racist, yet Planned Parenthood is still racist. Is it not, Megan?
I believe so. I mean, you see that a lot of the victims of abortion, they're disproportionately from the African American community. I mean, they know that that Black women are the most vulnerable in this because they are subject to having a lot of children, and they are subject to the poor circumstances, and that those result from the bureaucracy that's happening in our country. So they are fully aware of who they're targeting, and it's just such a shame because instead of trying to help these women in the best ways possible, they're just using their agenda, tailoring their agenda to who is most vulnerable in the system, and it's awful.
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, it's funny, but not funny at the same time, because her blog essentially says Margaret Sanger was racist towards Black people. And, it begs the question of what is Planned Parenthood doing? And, just a few years ago, we had New York City, more Black babies were being aborted than born. And for them to say that we're not a racist organization and we disavow our founder who was racist, it doesn't truly reflect what they're saying. So, I really don't think Planned Parenthood has changed, honestly, within the last several decades. I think the only thing that's honestly changed is that their prenatal care keeps going down. I mean, in some facilities, it's non-existent. Their STI treatment, their other services, they keep going down year after year. And the only thing that's going up is abortion, right? So it begs the question of what has changed. And I think that answer is nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to find the specific quote I also really did not like from Alexis McGill Johnson as well. Here it is. "We don't know what was in Sanger's heart, and we don't need to in order to condemn her harmful choices. What we have is a history of focusing on white womanhood relentlessly. Whether our founder was a racist is not a simple yes or no question. Our reckoning is understanding her full legacy and its impact. Our reckoning is the work that comes next." I mean, you have it right there. You have them saying whether our founder was a racist is not a simple yes or no question. But Margaret Sanger said herself, we don't want our agenda that we are trying to exterminate the African American community and that population through targeting their children. You have it right there. She is racist. Is that not the epitome of racist behavior? Trying to go after the most innocent of a specific race's population? That's such a blatant miscommunication and misdirection and misrepresentation of what their founder's agenda really was. I mean, it does not give the full picture. They're trying to cover it up, and I can't, as a leader in the pro-life movement, I cannot sit here and say, yes, I fully expect that that they are going to completely disavow their founder. I don't believe it. Not right now anyway. I hope to be proven otherwise, but right now as this article stands, I think there is a lot of blatantly misrepresentation rhetoric here that is present, and I don't see this making up for the many generations of harmful actions that Sanger has committed against the African American population.
Absolutely, and I absolutely love how you phrased it. And I'm reading here in the article, and it says, and I quote, "We are committed to confronting any white supremacy in our own organization and across the movement for reproductive freedom." And again, it goes back to the point of when you have Black babies being aborted at a higher rate than they're born in a city, then is that not white supremacy? And I think the answer is it is white supremacy. And it truly is ironic, and it's mind-boggling to me that there are people who claim to be against racism within Planned Parenthood, yet their own organization is racist. And there's no secret about that. They know that. And I guess, Megan, my question to you is, why do you think it took them this long? Were they afraid of some kind of PR pushback, or what was the reason?
I mean, speaking from PR experience, I think that definitely trying to hide behind and trying to completely avoid reckoning with a racist history, that is a huge deal. I mean, if they had completely disavowed Margaret Sanger, like I think they should have done, if they really wanted to do what was right by African American women and children, that could have been a PR nightmare. But this rhetoric is carefully crafted in order to keep Planned Parenthood his heads up above the water, but then while also giving a half-hearted attempt to portray this as, yes, we're letting go of Margaret Sanger and our affiliation with her, but I think this is a very weak attempt to do that. But it's just enough to be for most pro-choicers, I think, who align with Planned Parenthood. I think it's just enough for them to say, yes, I could get on board with that. This falls within my latitude of acceptance. Because it doesn't sit here and condemn everything that Planned Parenthood has worked for, because that's their whole mission is built off of Margaret Sanger's eugenics beliefs. I mean, that is the cold hard truth right there. So I think that like I said, that this is a very half-hearted excuse of a op-ed for Planned Parenthood to try and move on from this, and I don't see anything really changing. I still think that the African American community is going to be one of the most targeted communities in terms of the abortion industry and trying to abort babies. I mean, we don't have this huge of an issue with other demographics. We just don't. It's disproportionately high in the African American community. It's awful. It's horrible. Instead of trying to target their babies and ruthlessly murder them, we should be trying to help them. We should be trying to fix our foster care and adoption systems. We should be trying to reform that. We should be trying to have our churches come together and support these women and help them raise their children. And if they can't raise them themselves, then we should try to find people who can, because there are so many parents out there, so many loving parents who would love to have a child and can't for whatever reason. So we should be doing everything that we can that doesn't involve murdering an innocent life, because these babies are the most innocent among us. They've done absolutely nothing wrong, and however they were conceived, whatever that might entail, that it doesn't mean that they should be issued a death sentence. It's just wrong.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I'm skimming through her article, and it says down here that Margaret Sanger harmed generations with her beliefs, so she's admitting it. In our second century, Planned Parenthood has a chance to heal those harms. Reckoning with Margaret Sanger is one thing. We also need to reckon with ourselves. So, she's essentially trying to say we're going to hold ourselves accountable. And I really don't think that's what they're doing. They're continuing abortion, and it's quite clear that an organization that targets minorities like the African American population are racist. And there was a study done a few years back where they found that a large portion of Planned Parenthood facilities were located in minority neighborhoods. Now, sure, you might have some people that will argue, well, that just means they're helping the minorities with, STI treatments, with different resources, with birth control. And I would say that's a fair point, but I don't think that's it at all. And as a matter of fact, as you said, Megan, Margaret Sanger strategically set up her facilities in Black in Black demographics and neighborhoods so that she could target those babies. And I mean, again, you have her You have her speaking at KKK rallies. You have her, saying racist things, that she's going to exterminate the Negro population. That's racist. And I'm glad that Planned Parenthood recognizes that, like, several decades later. But I think nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the leaders in it. And the I guess you could call it the systemic racism within Planned Parenthood is still very much present. So I really don't think anything has changed. And we have Bethany Davies. She is one of our bloggers, and she has been, working very hard to fight for life. And I'm excited to have her. So Bethany, can you please tell us a little bit about what you do and why you're pro-life? Can you hear us, Bethany?
So, like Philippe said.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So like Philippe said, I am Bethany Davies. I am a junior in high school, and I have been pro-life pretty much my whole life, but I was not really educated on it until about 10th grade when I did a civics class. I'm homeschooled, so I take all outside classes, and I did a civics class. And my teacher was very pro-life, and it was very obvious. Everything he talked about pointed back to abortion and why we need to oppose it. And I've grown up knowing that my family was pro-life and that I am pro-life, but I didn't know what it meant. And going to his classes, I mean, we got extra credit if we went to the local abortion clinic and we would pray and protest and do all that. And I remember one week I was like, I'll just go just to get the extra credit. In the first 5 minutes I was there, I couldn't stop crying because I knew what was going on in that clinic. I knew what those women were going to go through. I knew how many lives weren't going to come out. And from that day, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something. And where the abortion clinic is, I'm not very close to it, so I haven't been back in a while. But just being there was eye-opening and honestly hurtful. I am adopted, so it's very close to me because it's an awake call. Like, yes, my parents wanted me, and I'm so glad I'm adopted. But there's always in the back of my mind, like, why didn't she abort me? Like, she had not every right, but she was able to, and she didn't. And I struggled with that because I felt like I wasn't worth being saved, being adopted. And the first time I went to that abortion clinic, they had the sidewalk prayer leaders and the sidewalk counselors. And I remember just going to one and I'm like, I'm not here for an abortion, but I'm struggling with this. They were like, definitely. And like they sat down with me and we talked and we prayed and they just listened to my story. And it just shows that people who are pro-life, we care about you and we care about the women who would go in to have the abortion afterwards. Like, we're not just here to just stop you from ending a life. We're here to help you through life. And I feel like that needs to be portrayed more because I feel like a lot of people just think, pro-life, we just care about the babies and we care about the children and the teenagers and the adults and the grandparents. We care about everybody. And the other thing was, I don't want any other teenager, any other kid grow up being in a pro-life household, but not really understanding what being pro-life is. And that's very close to my heart. That's one of the reasons why I joined TeenProLifers, because I knew that this would be a good opportunity to do that. And I'm just very thankful to be able to be here and to share my story with others.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that testimony, Bethany. I think a lot of us actually began, maybe we were pro-life. I sure wasn't, actually. I lived in a pro-life household, and I didn't really know what that. I didn't know what that meant, right? To be pro-life. So, I'm very glad that you touched on that. So we're talking about, going back to the point, is we're talking about a new article that was released this morning by by the president of Planned Parenthood. So, Megan kind of touched on the fact that nothing has changed really. The only thing that's changed is the leadership. And, Bethany, if you can quickly, in a minute, add what is it? What does it make? How does it make you feel that there is a racist organization claiming that they're not racist? How does that make you feel? Oh, can you hear us, Bethany? Alrighty, it looks like we're having some technical problems. We'll circle back around with Bethany. She may be having connection issues. Alrighty. Well, in the meantime, I want to wrap it up pretty soon. And, I guess the last question that I have for you, Megan, is what can people take away from this article? So, some people are going to say, oh, this is a great thing that they're disavowing Planned Parenthood. Others are going to say, it's not enough. What do you think people should take out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, going back to what I said earlier about I think a lot of pro-lifers are definitely going to call Miguel Johnson's bluff on this. I think that they really should. I mean, to not see that this might simply be a PR stunt is a huge mistake. I mean, a lot of pro-lifers have been coming after Planned Parenthood lately for their past and their history with eugenics and systemically trying to eradicate the African American population. So I think that's a huge issue that we need to reckon with. And then also trying to, keeping that in mind, I think that a quote from Kay Coles James from the Heritage Foundation is very vital here. She goes on to say, on the other hand, Sanger's open racism, her promotion of eugenics, and her advocacy of forced sterilizations to keep those she deemed unfit from breeding was her vision. Planned Parenthood was formed on that vision, and much of that vision still exists at Planned Parenthood today. So this is obviously an attempt by Planned Parenthood to become more in tune with the humanities side of Planned Parenthood, saying that no, we do value women, all women, whatever their race, whatever their sexual orientation. I mean, the article is very good at framing that issue very well. But then also trying to realize that Planned Parenthood's mission is still to dehumanize unborn babies' lives. I mean, Kay Coles James goes on to say, Planned Parenthood still considers certain people less than human and rejects the science of prenatal development by calling babies in the womb clumps of cells, tissue masses, and products of conception. So, keeping all of this in mind, I think it's just completely awful what they're doing. In this weak attempt to disavow Margaret Sanger, even though they're not really completely letting go of their founder, is it's really unfortunate that they had to choose this route. And I think that ultimately they're gonna have some work to do if they're really going to convince the pro-life movement that they are really letting go of their racist and eugenics past. I think that there's still a lot of work to do in that regard.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for that. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Again, I think the only solution in this case would be for Planned Parenthood to just outright stop doing abortions. They really don't want to be racist. Don't kill black babies. I think it's an easy solution, but obviously they're not willing to take that path. So thank you so much, Megan Kerr, Executive Vice President of TeenProLifers.
Yes, thank you for having me.